Yes.
All right, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome you all to the passage into a very special Left Coast Writers launch. We thank you so much for coming out and supporting your local independent bookstore, because it's really patrons like yourselves who make this all happen. And it's really an incredible cultural gathering place that you can all come together and listen to incredible novelists and cultural thinkers. So thank you. Tonight, Book Passage is proud to welcome former journalist, novelist, and professor John Hewitt. John is incredibly well-traveled and has a discerning ear for the bizarre story. Honed over years of traveling and working as a documentary cameraman and professor. These bizarre stories prove the foundation for his highly entertaining and well-crafted novels. His latest literary offering is titled One Shoe, When a Gold Rush is Not Enough. And it is a gleaming example of John's stunning talent for taking a story and making it a phenomenal story, a hilarious story, a story you absolutely cannot put down. I have 3 kids and I will testify to this. I am tired and this book kept me up at night. So with that, please help me welcome John.
That's it. I don't know what else to say. Thank you. Getting a book published is, of course, a team effort. It works best when you don't have to pay the team. I'd like to thank some who are here tonight. Please note the cheese and crackers are back there. That counts. Payment. Jim, where are you?
Setting up chairs.
Okay, setting up chairs. Yeah, that's better. Jim Schubin is the book's designer, and he decided it should be yellow, and yellow it is, and I love it. The yellow and the red makes it stand out amid all of the blues and greens in the book there. So you want it to stand out. Kay McKinsey, where are you? Is the publicist for the book, and hopefully we'll be,
Doing more.
out there. So a number of people read the book before it was published, especially Brian Sheridan, who's over here in the front. Brian is working on his first novel, and he was wandering around confused after he read mine, but I think he's still going to work on it. He's looking for the untold wealth that comes with self-publishing books. This morning at 3:30 in the morning, Ingram Distributors direct deposited to my account the invoice for the last 6 months. And I don't know if any of you have ever dealt with book publishers and their accounting, but I sold 40 books. Yeah, woo woo, woo woo woo. Okay, I sold 40 books. I had 1 return, and I owe them $1.78. And there are 3 pages of figures and everything like that, and I can't make head or tail of it. So, Brian, go into something else. Flip houses.
I just might.
Yeah. I want to thank my wife Annette. Where is she? Yay. My brothers Bill and Jerry, who both worked on the manuscript a little bit. Bill came up with One Shoe. It worked. Yeah. And my grandson Riley named the kangaroos in the book. So it was a little bit of a family job. I want to thank the Writers Salon of Sausalito, my writing group, where we ingested copious amounts of beer while we were critiquing each other's writing. And it's a big help to have people react to what you write. Finally, Book Passage and Left Coast Writers for this venue, which really makes it classy to bring the book out. Now, to all of you, I am in debt, except to Ingram who could go do something. Now, in this United States, at least the contiguous ones, there are 5 states with a seemingly larger collection of bizarre and strange happenings. Louisiana is one, down in the bayou, and James Lee Burke is a great author for that. Florida has Miami and the swamps, and Carl Hyacin and Dave Barry and others who write about that. Texas has Dallas and its prairies and its attitude. Upstate New York is very spooky. Right, Virginia? Where are you? Yes. And finally, California. We have a monstrous collection of bizarre events and people. I was recently in France and was in a little town and walking down the street with somebody with a Yucca Valley t-shirt. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever been to Yucca Valley. Yucca Valley is a high desert town outside of Palm Springs. It's about 2 miles long, and basically it has every fast food joint, 15 tattoo parlors, nail salons, and payday loan shops. And that's it. So all of a sudden we're advertising Yucca Valley out to the world, and this person wore it proudly. Nearby is the settlement of Landers, and Landers is a little town in the desert, 3,000 people, population 3,000, but no town. It's got a post office, and that's it. Where the 3,000 people are, it's somewhere out there, next to what's called Giant Rock, where the UFOs landed in 1947, and they've had conventions there for all the years thereafter. So that's part of it. You can also, down at Landers, you can go sleep in an Integratron, which is a cupola building where you lie on the ground and listen to music. That's sort of takes you to another sphere. Also at night, you can sleep to the sound of the bombs going off at the Marine Corps bombing range, which is right next to Landers. So California, at least Southern California, has its weird spots, but so does Northern California. Other than San Francisco and Berkeley, you have to go back up into the hills in the Northeast, where Mount Shasta, they've been communicating with aliens for years and years and years. And it is spooky. And if you go up there, you can see these rings of clouds around Mount Shasta. It's really a sort of a mystical place. In this area too, we have the state of Jefferson, which are the counties up in the Northeast that want to separate themselves from California. Why? They don't seem to know, but they think it's a good idea. And we have the wonderful organization of Eclampus Vitus, which I don't know if any of you know about, but it's 50,000 people whose sole purpose is to have a service organization that does nothing except build little river rock monuments to bizarre personages who are in the area. And they get together in campsites every year. And I've met a number of them. So, what is it about Northeast California that has this aura that you can inject a novel into? And it's basically, it's what's left over from the gold rush. These were gold camps, these were towns that had some sort of commercial reason to be there and don't anymore. And as a result, they're very tourist oriented. And the goal of a lot of them is to bring people to these little towns that are back in the mountains. One of the ways they do that is they, is this working? Yeah. One of the ways they do that is to find criminals, scoundrels, and various bad people and make them into modern day heroes. Somebody named Reelfoot Williams is a great bank robber in the gold country. Joaquin Murrieta, of course, whose head traveled around California in a jar after he was killed so that they could prove that he was dead. And the hand of his associate, Three-Fingered Jack, also went with it. Black Bart, whose name was Charles Bolts, who held up stages. He held up 28 Wells Fargo stages, and he was unearlingly polite. He never fired a gun, but he made off, and he also hated horses, much like our former President Bush. Anyhow, he was caught eventually and then disappeared. But one of the other really great scoundrels of the area was Rattlesnake Dick. And Rattlesnake Dick Barker was a scoundrel and a criminal and a thug who was written up in pulp novels in the early 1900s and lauded, and his reputation changed into some sort of a hero. Rattlesnake Dick makes it into one shoe because this is the man that the town in this book decides is going to be the linchpin for their festival. And that's the start of this book, One Shoe. Now, One Shoe is a genre of fiction. When you write fiction, when you select a distributor, they give you a list of 34 different genres that you have to pick one. And it doesn't fit anywhere into these, but it fits into what Carl Hiaasen calls malicious fiction. And that's where it is. Now, how weird is California? I was a newspaper reporter for a year and a half out in the Central Valley, one of two in the county of Yolo. So I covered everything that happened. And one morning I came in and they said there was a bank robbery out in Esparto, which is a little settlement 10 miles to the west of Woodland. So I went running out there and I got to the bank that had been robbed. They had an agricultural bank that did mostly farm loans. And the sheriff said, "You won't believe it, but the robber was dressed in green, had painted his skin green, was wearing a frog mask, and was duck walking with a gun." And so I went back, and we had a 10 o'clock deadline that morning for the morning edition, and the headline in the paper was "Duck Walking Green Bandit Robs Bank in Esparto," which was just sort of a normal little event that happened in the town of Woodland. Another normal event was they had a sheriff's office that had a front door and then a booking area, so they would bring criminals in, and then they would take them another 10 feet to a vestibule, and the vestibule had two doors to the outside, one on either side, and then they would go back to the jail. And every month, a prisoner would escape. But nobody ever figured out that the reason was that they took them to this vestibule, they just walked out the door. So it's a unique little area to work in and to bring out in the novel. Now, this novel concerns a fictitious town called One Shoe, which is next to the fictitious town of Spanish Flat, which looks an awful lot like Quincy in Plymouth County, because it more or less is. It's a contemporary story, but has all the ethos of the gold rush. And this is why you can have a good time with it, because the gold rush didn't have many formalized social interactions. It was a series of kind of crazy people. The story intersects the life of Harry Trout, the principal antagonist, with a plethora of other characters: a naive young television reporter, her battle-hardened cameraman, his opportunistic landlord, the local bartender named Jewel, as well as a hideaway ashram retreat called There, which is part of a nationwide chain of spiritual centers that sells timeshares and offers wind chimes trucked in from Belarus. Okay. It's screwball fiction, so I thought I'd read just a little bit of it, kind of give you an idea. And this is the opening. Harry Trout stood out like a cockroach in a bag of trail mix. His loose-fitting Hawaiian shirt, camouflage shorts, flip-flops, and surfer sunglasses might as well have been from Mars. The other half-dozen roughly dressed men slouching on benches in that cavernous anteroom of the California State Minerals building had that beat-up, parched whisker stubble prospector look. Dusty boots, khaki pants, work shirts, and floppy tan hats. Each carried a worn canvas bag full of rocks he'd dug from the ground, and each prayed that his ore would test out pure. Collectively, this bunch exuded ripe aromas of dried sweat. In their midst sat the casually dressed Harry, freshly showered and nervously paging through a dog-eared copy of World Ore Traders magazine, pretending to be interested, but keeping to himself because he knew, that he didn't belong. After an hour's wait, a bald man with a shiny brass nose ring appeared from the gloom behind an Art Deco's clerk station. Next, he read from a clipboard, H. Trout, H-A-I-R-Y Trout, and he smirked, very self-satisfied. That's a slap in the face. Steaming, Harry rushed to the window, fighting to keep his voice at a whisper. No, it's Harry, H-A-R-R-Y. Where'd you get that other spelling? Hey, be cool. We know everyone applies for assay under a phony name, John Smith, John Doe, John Sutter. We call them boguses. I thought your trout was a pretty frigging creative bogus. So I added H-A-R-Y as a joke. The clerk paused with a quizzical look. Oopsie, trout isn't a joke, is it? Oopsie my ass, name's no joke, amigo. Dead silence. Each man stared the other down. Nose ring finally blinked. Sorry, Mr. H. Trout. Just trying to inject a little levity. The clerk adopted a beleaguered expression and mumbled offhandedly as he looked down. Someone needs to chill out a bit. He tore a page off a pad and pointed to a line near the bottom. Sign your H. Trout right here. We'll process those nuggets. It'll take an hour. Harry slipped him a folded $20 bill. Miss Jackson says you'll be keeping my essay results ultra confidential, right? Nose ring pocketed the money. Hey, of course. The clerk's eyes were dark, almost black. He pointed to Harry's Hawaiian shirt and gave him a conspiratorial wink. Aloha duds, love the Pan Am Clipper seaplane. Love the hula bunnies. I dig the look. Wear those shirts myself, but don't see much of it around here in Reading. Harry cringed. The clerk was clearly a sneering weasel. Harry had driven hundreds of miles out of his way to get these nuggets assayed in a place where no one knew his name. But if the comedian clerk with the rat-like eyes didn't keep his voice down or his mouth shut, and the news leaked out, Harry might not last more than a day when he got back home. You don't unexpectedly show up with hunks of gold in your backwoods, out-of-town, down-and-out mining village without every meth head and sketchy ex-con neighbor wanting in on your action. Harry's desperate attempt to blend into the woodwork during his year-long parole could be in serious danger. So the story proceeds. Harry goes out to just kill some time in the town, and he goes to a laundromat. The lone customer was an enormous woman sprawled across two chairs, encircled by her worldly possessions in upright grocery bags. The skimpy rain slicker modestly covered her bulging body parts, but copious bare flesh revealed that she was in fact not wearing a stitch beneath the coat. Apparently she had tossed her street outfit and undies into the washing load, now churning in the machine. Harry's presence didn't unnerve her. She never looked up from her crossword, and her head bobbed to thumping music blasting through her earbuds. Back home, Harry saw her type every day. Over the months, he'd become resigned to the drifters who wandered into laundromats, where perpetually open doors welcomed society's sketchy fringe. Lost, skip your meds, come on in. Harry wanted to write a book about how laundromats spread a malaise. He understood the pioneer washhouse he managed back in one shoe would never be a magnet for his fantasy woman. High-class, well-dressed, easy laugher with an education, a libertine who stepped out of satin thongs, who showered every day, had a dead, infirm, or divorced husband, possibly a few racehorses, craved athletic lovemaking, would happily tolerate a boyfriend who occasionally went into the hills hunting gold. These delusions were necessary evil. After all, his track record in the love department amounted to a pair of one-night stands in the last 3 months. Neither woman stuck around, apparently finding it difficult to sustain any hot and bothered interest in a 45-year-old short, balding ex-con at the end of his parole that lived in a shithole single room above a cruddy laundromat and had so little money he couldn't even afford cable. So the story goes on, and Harry gets the assay, and the assay is good. These are very valuable gold nuggets. So now he's worried. If the word gets out, he's cooked. So he decides to drive home carefully, and he drives home through the fields of California, and he turns up the Feather River Canyon, which is incidentally a stunningly beautiful area. Stops at the roadhouse called the Dam, which is right at the Kolum Powerhouse Dam, which is about 10 miles from One Shoe. And he starts to have a couple of beers. In the meantime, the book covers the ascent of a new television reporter who shows up for work in Sacramento but has never had a day of journalism in her life, never worked at any job in her life. But her father got them to give her a job. So, suddenly she's thrown into the job of announcing the gold find. Harry Trout slouched a bit on his bar stool at the Dam. He was more than slightly buzzed after guzzling 4 pints of Brain Blast, the local craft beer with enough alcohol to qualify as an antiseptic. Harry's usual limit was 1, so this afternoon the bar's mirror reflected an overly juiced Harry, who for once in a long while might actually be prosperous. On one TV, a second-level English soccer match was plodding along in a dreary 0-0 tie. He considered this a boring sport he never cared for. Some Shire was playing some other Shire. On the other flat screen, the local Sacramento station was running an afternoon movie with Julia Roberts. Harry began badgering Jewel, the bartender, to change the film to the poker channel. As she reached for the remote, a single-word bulletin flashed on the screen, and the camera cut to a wide-eyed woman reporter in a bright yellow suit standing in a parking lot. Dark sweat stains outlined her armpits. She appeared to be gasping for air. A voice in the background was yelling, "Go, go, speak, speak." Jewel raised the set's volume. Harry was fascinated. Everyone in the bar stopped to watch Louisa's journalism career launch on a sour note. "We are just Larry," the reporter looked down to check the notes in her hand. As she looked down, a sudden wind gust blew them away. The audience could smell fear. The voice off camera yelled, "Start again, start again." "Let me start again," she announced, winging it from there. "We're just learning right now in this parking lot here at the station that there's been a major jumbo-sized gold discovery in the hills near Plumas in Quincy County, which mixes them up." She paused. Harry gripped the bar's rail. Jewel ran the sound up even higher. "It's a story of dreams, of gold fever, of redemption, yes, of hope. It's a sensational story, what we at the station are calling the beginning of the new California gold rush." A dour mugshot appeared next. It was Harry. Los Angeles police had taken it 3 years ago after his arrest for skimming thousands from the books of a 24-hour colonoscopy clinic operation. The other 4 drinkers at the Dam's bar stared over at Harry. "It's the same guy," roared the biker with the bandana headband sitting next to him. "Nice mugshot, looking good." Laughing loudly, he raised his glass to toast Harry. "Here's to fellow criminals," he said. Harry felt confused. His fingers tingled as if someone had wired his bar stool to the breaker box. He prayed silently that the television reporter in the blotchy yellow suit would fall over dead. But the woman kept jabbering about an exciting find in the village of One Shoe in the California foothills, repeatedly showing video of the 3 nuggets on a black cloth. Harry swallowed hard. He prayed the story would end. Almost on cue, the reporter began a bizarre wrap-up, babbling about London. She paused to wipe her runny nose on her sleeve. Louisa Fairchild leaned forward with a vacant, helpless stare, mumbled something that sounded like Chinese coming, became the first KBYT reporter to sign off her live shot by projectile vomiting an entire sweet and sour takeout lunch onto the lens and cameraman. The bar erupted in laughter. Jill walked over with a big grin. "So, my Oregon parolee friend, my fellow escapee from small-town consciousness, you were holding out on me. Nothing's going on, huh?" "I was going to tell you," Harry's boozy eyes darted around, "but I better go now." "Wait, with the good fortune, maybe you'll pay your tab." "Jewel will have to be later. Gotta run." "Harry, you're pretty wasted. You usually stop at 1 beer. Today you had 4 or 5. Maybe you should have coffee. It's on the house." Harry waved away Jewel's offer. He slipped off the stool and tottered toward the parking lot. At the door, Jewel intercepted him. "Sure you can drive, Harry? I'm concerned. You'd want to throw away 11 months of a clean parole by getting a stupid DUI. "Yeah, no I don't. Hon, give me your car keys. I'll call a taxi. I'm always worried about you, Harry." "No, I'll just drive slowly." Harry walked out the parking lot looking over his shoulder to make sure he wasn't followed. He was having a hard time standing, had to lean on the Subaru's roof to scan the back seat for thieves. Satisfied there were none, he fell heavily into the driver's seat, causing the two bobblehead dashboard hula dancers to shake their hips. The steering wheel felt large and his palms were numb. Ahead was the final 10 miles of dangerous riverbank road that hugged the shoreline along the Feather River. Jewel ran over and knocked on the window. "Duck, you've had way too much brain blast. I don't think driving is a good idea. Why not sleep it off a bit? Just go around the dam and stop in the powerhouse. You can nap there all afternoon." "Thanks, I'm fine," said Harry. He didn't get far. Jewel was right, he was confused. Crossing the parking area was a trial. Before he even reached the road, it was clear the highway's bends and curves would be too much. He turned abruptly into the tourist lot at the Colum Hydroelectric Powerhouse. Maybe all he needed was a short nap, and he would be sober enough to creep back into one shoe. Harry parked over at the river where he could see the reservoir behind the dam. The surface was cluttered with branches and bushes that had washed in during a violent thunderstorm the day before. He reclined in the driver's seat and rolled up a jacket for a pillow. Still, sleep was difficult. He was agitated. The gold he found to bankroll his ticket out of one shoe was suddenly toxic. Harry knew right then and there his life was headed for the big stink hole because, as an airhead television reporter in Sacramento parking lot had transformed his 3 paltry gold nuggets into a gold rush, and literally everyone in the world, from London to Spanish Flat, everyone knew the tough and wiry little ex-con with the receding hairline who lived in one shoe above the old laundromat had struck it rich.
Wow.
That's the beginning.
Wow.
I have one more to read, if you will bear with me. And that's when the couple arrives at the ashram called There. They're driving a 52-foot motorhome called the Travel Cloud. Okay. Eastern Star and her fellow sensualist Orion had set aside their summer for a road trip to California ashrams, spiritual meditation centers, and hot springs. This would be the 6th rural monastic camp in as many weeks. They turned the travel crowd around, and at the county's camping park they found a carved wooden sign hidden behind thorn bushes. "There is here," it said. On the rutted Bean Creek Road, the motorhome bounced along, dropping several hundred feet, winding through hairpin turns. Fragrant pine forest aromas drifted into the beast. Emerging from the trees in a sunny meadow, they could see a 2-story high arched portal with the word "There" in huge golden letters set on a sky blue backdrop. Below was a second line, to recapture the true spirit of the soul. On either side of the arch stood 2 6-foot-tall sculpted gold-leafed ospreys, shining as if standing guard over the tumble-down collection of wooden log cabins, white teepees, and pavilion-like tents. "We are there," said Eastern Star, and she giggled. "Orion, honey, let's put aside our personal jealousies, let's just mellow out." "Kumbaya," said Orion. Passing beneath the archway, the motorhome negotiated a maze of dirt paths bordered by painted white rocks. Signs directed guests to a gatehouse next to a bubbling koi pond, where a thin-faced man wearing an orange knit cap, orange gloves, and a flowing knee-length orange robe over a pair of orange silk pants greeted them with a beatific smile. He walked up to the Travel Cloud's passenger side and bowed to Eastern Star. "Welcome. I'm the monk known as Brother Stargaze. I will be your concierge. Welcome to There. Open your hearts and let the spirit bless your stay." Eastern leaned farther out the window. "Hi. The spirit to you too. I'm Eastern Star and this is Orion. We are tribal sensualists who have reservations for the teepee." Star stressed the P. Both opened separate doors, jumped down, and stood in front of the motorhome. Not another word, Stargaze stepped forward and reached out, wrapping his arms around Eastern Star, pulling her tightly against his body and giving her a grinding, smothering hug. "Oh yes," he said, "I can feel your sensual sisterhood yearning for transformation." Eastern was almost knocked over by the scent of patchouli oil. She wiggled free from his embrace and pushed him away. "Transformation is not all you're trying to get a feel for," she said. Orion approached Stargaze. He lifted a raised open palm. "Let's kumbaya, Brother Gazebo. Give me a high five for the old kumbaya." This surprised the monk. Confused, he high-fived Orion, singing out, "Kumbaya, brother." Orion wrapped his arms around Stargaze, giving him a drawn-out bear hug, rubbing his ample belly against the monk. "Oh yes," said Orion, "that feels so friendly." Orion rolled his eyes in Eastern's direction. Stargaze twisted free and picked up his clipboard. "Yes, we were expecting you. You booked for 5 nights Monday through Friday. Step inside the office and check in. I need a driver's license, The picture ID, 2 major credit cards. We don't accept American Express. Once you've registered, you'll be taken by electric cart to your teepee. Yours is called the Red Star. You can park this highway whale back by the creek. Brother Starbo, when can we meet the Master Hathaway? Asked Orion. Please call me Brother Gaze. It won't be long. If you listen carefully, you can hear the whale songs calling over the loudspeakers. The Master is leading pilgrims to the oceanic bursts of bliss. Meditation portal right now. If you folks would like to pass through that, then change into the robes in your teepee and come down immediately to the hot springs. It is clothing optional. I hope that won't upset you. Brother Gaze, not in the least. Should we even bother with the robes? All communicants wear robes walking around the property. It's in the therapy and togetherness sessions, and we find them not necessary. Groovy, said Eastern. Brother Gaze continued the pitch. After we open a tiny convenience store in the afternoons. If you want any snacks, chips, or sodas, wind chimes, or even candles, you can stock up. You'll find our house brand Satori plastic wrapped cheese and gluten-free biscuits in the mini bar in your teepee, along with bottles of our Satori gourmet honey, salad dressings, and artisanal olive oil. The store has medical marijuana baked items as well as a blended selection of cannabis. And you'll find pamphlets on timeshares available at our 12 wigwam-level ashrams at fine locations around the country and in the Caribbean. If you participate in the timeshare seminar at 7 Wednesday morning, you'll also get an enhanced breakfast, snake bite kit, mosquito repellent, and sunscreen supplies. If you go through the second level of the timeshare process and meet with the deal closers, we promise you exercise portals or personal massages as gifts. Eastern Bean always attend those timeshare meetings. So, anyhow, that's my part of it. The story goes on and on. But there's a wonderful section where the town decides they need to hold a festival. The last time they held a festival was in 1855, and they burned down the town. So they vowed never again to hold another festival. They're going to do it again, and they make Rattlesnake Dick the sort of poster boy for the festival, which causes a lot of problems, and it doesn't turn out well. That's one shoe. So, any questions? Questions? Yes.
You said it was present day or the 70s?
It's present day.
Oh, excellent.
It's current. Yes, contemporary.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yes, now, this book is with the Gold Country, but your previous book was in Mexico. Do you go to these places and search out these weird towns?
Yes. It's when I was a newspaper reporter, I loved weird stories. You know, you had to do the school board, you had to do the zoning council, you had to do all this stuff. But I love green frog walking bandits and things like that. So, yes, I like weird places. That's what keeps news reporters going. Yes, Ginny?
Yeah, were any of the characters based on real people that you know, or did you just come up with them?
The sheriff in here is named Tina Kettle. She's a detective. She's based on sort of an amalgam of people I knew in Yolo County whose sort of solution to any crime was to drive the person to the county line and kick them out of the county. So that's what she does. Every time something happens, she has her deputies take the people out and tell them never to come back. Or she said she'll lock them up with the meth heads in Quincy. So yeah, it's based loosely on people I knew in these little towns. Yes?
The previous 3 books were part of a trilogy.
More or less, yeah.
More or less. Is One Shoe the beginning of a new series or a new trilogy or a...
No, this one actually picks up on Under the Padre's Thumb, which was set in Kelseyville up in Clear Lake, which is also a very spooky place.
Yes.
Yes. But it ends in Baja, as did the other one. They all end in Baja. I sort of, rather than an epilogue where you find out what happened to people, they all end up in Mexico. Yeah. Anything else? Have I answered all the questions? Eleman, do you have any questions? Tomas? Come on, pregúntame. Yes?
I presume you're planning another book?
Oh yeah, there's another one cooking right now. It's set in Napa. Reptile Wines is the vineyard. And Reptile Wines, to attract people to its vineyard, and we just sort of arrived at this last night, is going to become a UFO reception station. So it's going to make circular target out of its vineyard, and that's going to attract the tour buses to Reptile Wines. Yes?
Do rosés figure into this winery?
I'm currently editing a documentary on rosés around the world, and yes, because
So there's an intersection there.
yeah, the Reptile Wines is going to be a rosé producer, yeah, to match any in Provence.
All
Yes.
right.
George.
Do any of your, any of the people that you are interviewing realize that they are actually going to become characters in your book if
As Carol Hyacin said, it's malicious fiction. So, they aren't actually characters, but they form the basis for characters. Jewel, the bartender, the landlord, Harry's landlord, who's a little love-starved at the beginning, and keeps coming into his room and waking him up with graham crackers and coffee and things like that. Yeah, I don't interview people, but you'll be in the next one, George.
I can hardly wait.
We'll malform your character.
Absolutely.
But remember, if it's not true, if it's true, you can't sue me for malice or forethought. Jenny.
One more question. Why have you never written a screenplay based on your books?
Because screenplays are actually very difficult type of fiction that you really have to understand how they're going to play out. And it takes a lot to
Yeah.
write a screenplay. It's not something you just knock off because you can write narrative fiction. Screenplays are specialized. Besides, there's 300,000 people in LA, all of whom are writing screenplays. You know that the New York Times did a study and found that out of all the screenplays written in 1 year in Southern California, only 4 that were independently submitted were produced. The rest were sequels, other movies were sequels or written by industry screenwriters. So the ability to get in is even less than fiction. Brian. Path of publishing. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Since you end up in Mexico so often, are you going to tell us about Donald Trump?
Oh, Donald Trump? I love it, yeah. Yeah, I know he's got to keep all those rapists out of California. Yeah. I'm not worried about Donald. I think Donald just adds a whole lot of weirdness to the and I think we're all happy for that.
He makes the upcoming election.
A comb over.
Yeah. From the Republican side, hope there are Republicans in the room, to be closer to a Hyacin novel than
Yes.
anybody would like to see.
Yeah, and if you all ever encounter a Carl Hyacin novel, this guy is the supreme leader of our group of pulp screwball fiction people. I love his work, and it's just a laugh out loud book from the beginning to the end. So if you want, after you've gone through One Shoe and my other books, kind of top it off, Carl Hyacin's a good choice. Anything else? Yeah.
What do you think of Elmore Leonard? In fact,
I
other than he's
love
dead.
Elmore Leonard, but he's dead. It's not the same genre, but he has a list of 10 things writers should not do. And some of them are very, very good, like don't use adverbs. Just don't use adverbs. Don't ever write anything other than he said. Don't say he avowed, he averred, he stated, anything like that. The dialogue in an Elmore Leonard novel has to carry the action. And so on, the 10 rules. But they're very good. Yes, I think he's a hero. one of the heroes in the Pantheon with Carl Hyacin, Elmore Leonard, James Lee Burke, all the pulpists. I aspire to be a pulpist. Yes.
I felt that about you. I feel the pulp.
The pulp. Yes. I'll refine the pulp eventually, yes. Any other questions? My family, any questions? Come on, family.
We know all the stories.
I meet with coffee with my brother every week, and I bounce all the story off him as we go. That's where we came up with One Shoe as the title of the book. So it originally was Claim Jumpers. And there's the law about claim jumping. Let me read one little quick thing. In the very intro to the book, it's the law against claim jumping. Because in the book, there's a lot of claim jumping that goes on. Every person who feloniously steals, takes, and carries away or attempts to take, steal, and carry from any mining claim, tunnel, sluice, undercurrent, riffle box, or sulfurate machine another's gold dust, amalgam, or quicksilver is guilty of grand theft. It's punishable by imprisonment in a state prison. So claim jumping is a serious offense. It's California Penal Code, in case you're interested. All right, yes?
One more question. How long did it take you to write this book, and are you getting faster? You've written so many now. How does that work?
I write in bursts. Sometimes it flows along. I have no outline. It just goes along, and when it finishes, it seems nice. But 5 or 6 months, and then it's a long process to get it edited and knock it down. But and you'll still find typos in the book. I found one today. It's embarrassing, but the nice thing about the publish on demand that we've got now is that you can change the text anytime. Just send them a new file. You put it into the machine, and when they print the book, it's got the text without the typos. So nothing is written in stone. Larry, anything?
Oh, no.
Can you hear me, Larry? Can you
I hear you.
Larry's dog ate his hearing aid. So.
Again.
Yeah.
sounds like part of a
novel.
Yeah. Well, Larry may show up in the next one. All right. How you doing, Peter? Okay. All right. Thank you all very much for coming.